Hey, welcome back, everybody. So we are now at the point where we're going to actually talk about the various levels of REST, and this is again according to the Richardson maturity model. Um, we have level 0, level 1, level 2, and a level 3, and basically the idea here is that we are going effectively up through decoupling our applications. Now, level 0 is pretty much what we think of REST commonly, which is, again, technically incorrect. And this is known as the swamp of POX, which we'll talk about next. After that, we start adding in separate resources. After that, we add in our verbs. And after that, we add in our hypermedia controls. Basically, the easy way to think of this, we are just decoupling as we go. And if you're not familiar, the term POX is basically plain old XML. So the idea here is that we are sending a request to a server. We are getting a packet of information back. Traditionally, this would have been XML, but it could be JSON, it could be whatever packaging you want for your data. It could just be straight text, honestly. But the idea here is that you send a request to a server, you get a response back. The entirety of the server is kind of geared towards handling your request. There's no separate endpoints for anything. There's no like separate machines hosting content and giving you a response back. It's just kind of one entity, really. That's really the idea here. So again, client server here. And I guess one thing I should mention too, a lot of these examples are going to be going through basically requesting doctor's appointments, setting that type of thing up. I'm pretty sure this is through it was a British scheduling type of thing. But basically here, what we've got is we send a post request to some appointment making service. So we're going to send this information back. Okay, we get a list of open slots, and then we're going to request a particular appointment slot and get our appointment object back. Now, again, we are talking to one entity here. We are getting a packet of data back. So this is kind of what we traditionally think of a lot of RESTful applications, right? We are making a curl request or we're making some kind of a HTTP request to a server and we just get some information back. And that's good enough for us, right? Um, kind of the idea here, though, is that this is not very decoupled. And what I keep saying the term decoupled. If you're not familiar, basically you want every class, every function, every application to be laser focused on one thing. And you don't want a whole lot of external dependencies to other applications, other APIs, other functions, other entities. It should basically be self-contained. Data comes in, data gets transformed, data goes out. The idea would be, if it's properly decoupled, that let's say I've got this appointment module here, and I've got a better one over here. I could just take this one out and replace it, and it's completely seamless because it respects our API calls. We don't care what's inside the box as long as it works properly. This approach that we have here in front of us, everything is pretty tightly coupled. We don't have any information going back and forth that is basically application independent, right? We know in this client that we need to get a particular data format, a particular packet, a particular call, and we need to represent that once we get the data back. There's lots of client-side requirements, lots of referencing to external documentation, things of that nature. Everything is very tightly woven here. Okay, and now you can make the argument, yes, we could replace this client with another one as long as it respects the rules. But the point is, inside of this client, we have to basically understand how to interpret the data being sent back. A better application would be able to take basically any packet that is sent back and interpret it without needing to reference very static in nature entities or transformations or placements of objects on your form. Basically, there's a lot going on here. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So level 0, here we make a post call. So I'm going to talk to the appointment service. We're going to make this as an HTTP call. We'll send whatever other headers we need. Maybe it's a form data that we're sending along. And then we're going to say, hey, we would like to see Dr. Jones on, well, if this is British, this would be April 1st. but basically, let's send this XML request. Again, this could be JSON, it doesn't really matter. It's just a data object. Well, this goes to the server, we get a response back, our typical 200 OK or 404 not found, 400 rejected, right? Whatever the response code is going to be, we're going to get a packet back with our HTTP response, with whatever headers the server is sending back. Again, this is something we looked at the very beginning of class. And then we will get a packet of data based on what we requested. So here, we're getting a list of open appointments for this particular doctor on this particular day. Very straightforward request. Okay, so if we, and this is a little bit of a more in-depth example here too. So here is our good response. So let's say that we get our list of appointments back. All right, so then we want to make an appointment request again. We ping the exact same server with this information. All right, we want it to start at 2 p.m. and at 2:50. This is the patient's name. This is the doctor's name. This packet is very specifically filled out based on what the server is expecting. And either the server is going to send back, hey, that was okay. We accept your request. Here's your appointment slot. Again, in this data packet that is specifying what's coming back. So, or you're going to get a response back that says the request failed, right? And in this case, we might get back a 200 OK because the server successfully satisfied the request. We built up a data packet, sent it back, but now it's up to the client to interpret what this means. Okay, well, we have a request failure. That is not available, and here's some information. We need to know exactly how these fields are filled out. We need to know exactly to look for this particular tag or, again, JSON object. We need to understand how to interpret 200 OK for a success and a failure. There's a lot going on here that we would need to manually handle. Right? What a better way to do that be? Well, we could include a description of what our fields look like. We could have more descriptive error messages, right? 200 OK means that it failed or that it's successful. If it failed, we might send a 400 level request back, right? Or sorry, response back. Okay, so that was level 0. Level 1, we add in resources now. So instead of just one kind of ethereal server that's handling everything, now we're going to talk to individual endpoints. So level 0, standard request response. Level 1, we add in specific resources for specific actions. So here we talk to the doctor's endpoint or the slots endpoint, whereas before in level 0 here, we just talk to the appointment service endpoint. So singular endpoint here, multiple endpoints here, and these are considered different resources. Okay, so we're still going to send our post request with our plain old XML data, but the difference here is we're having different endpoints that we can talk to. So basically we're adding in this idea of separating out our concerns. In this appointment example, a specific doctor might have an endpoint, a specific service might have an endpoint, and we'll talk to them all individually. Again, one of the issues here is that we still have a lot of very rigorously defined formatting of our data, formatting of how the application is supposed to look. Again, everything is still pretty tightly coupled, but at least we are separating out which services are handling which calls. So a little bit of separation is a good thing. And here would be the workflow here. Again, it's really not too different. We'll make a post request to the doctor's endpoint now, specifically to this doctor. And the way to read this, again, if you're forgetting or not familiar, this would basically be our slug that we would plug into our curl call. So this would be talk to, appointmentservice.com/doctor/ID. And the ID in this case is M. Jones for that doctor. It's still an HTTP request. We're still sending whatever headers we need. And then we'll send our XML or JSON or whatever for the request. Then we get a response back. Okay, this doctor has the availabilities here, here, and here. 200 OK back. Okay, that's great. We will pick one of them and do another post, but to a different endpoint here. So again, this notion of endpoints means that we are splitting off our various resources into separate entities, starting to get towards that decoupling. And then your response back from that server, Again, it worked fine. Ideally, here's your appointment data. Fill out your application however you need to now based on this information. All right, 10 minutes, level 1, level 2. Next time we will talk level 3 or level 2, level 3, and we will, after that, get into a little bit of semantic discussion. So, we'll see you in the next one, everybody.